reason of the conditioned soul being bound up in this world, Krishna indicates or gives the answer to be lust. That the lust, it is lust on your Arjuna, which is the eternal enemy of the living entity. This is a very important topic, and you could say lust, at the center of lust is sex, which Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita explains lust to be, it burns like fire. Fire is not particularly pleasing. You could say, well, if it's cold and I have a fire around and I'm camping, okay, it's nice and warm. But Krishna specifically makes the point, it burns the heart like fire. That there's a burning sensation created by lust. So that sex desire, sex, particularly pleasure or pain, pretty much, as we've given the title to this lecture, that in this world, sex is so much promoted that you have sex in this way and you have sex in that way, or the idea of sex is permeates the society pretty much anywhere and everywhere. Everywhere. There's no lacking of it in this world. You can see that even, sometimes you'll see an ad that is completely unrelated to a beautiful half-naked woman. There's no reason why a beautiful half-naked woman should be on that ad. Just like, for example, there's like a tire ad, and then there's a girl, there's a hot girl standing in a bikini next to a tire. What does that have anything to do with the car and how much grip the tire has? It doesn't have anything to do with it. Even the tire doesn't particularly indicate what kind of car you may even drive. But it seems that if you add that element, that sex desire to that advertisement, then all of a sudden it becomes much more significant to us, almost as eye-catching. It's like, we're immediately drawn to it. If I get that tire, or if I buy that, often maybe different things, even phones are advertised like that, phones are advertised like that, or your clothes you wear are advertised like that. If you wear this particular type of clothes, you'll get this beautiful girl all of a sudden. If you have this car, if you have this fast car, then you'll also get very beautiful girls to come and speak to you, and you'll be able to attract and have, that will lead to sex. So it permeates the society. It's an underlying principle of this world, lust. It induces us. Even if you drink this, you'll be able to get this girl. Or if you drink this, as we see sometimes in Coca-Cola ads, somebody drinks a Coca-Cola and all the beautiful women appear out of nowhere. They just start running beautiful men and women. So that we think that it gives us happiness. And emblem of that, a center of that, you could say, lust, is women. You see in society, that's the object of people's lust, and that's very prominent. You don't see men, on a billboard holding a beautiful tire very often. It's kind of weird. It's like, at least for men, it's kind of weird, I guess. But it's not really seen so much, or it's not really, men are not advertised. But you see women advertised everywhere with it. And even so, the whole sex industry is centered around exploitation of women. So the desire to try to satisfy the women become the center of that, or the object of that satisfaction. You see, like this, I never understood, never was a part of that. That was after I left the whole scene, that whole scene and all that, or like just being on those platforms and things like that. And initially, when the whole little bit more of the sexualization of society began with, I guess you could say, in the form of when the printing press was there, magazines. And then, there must have been some, there's obviously always been prostitute houses, but mass distribution began with magazines. And then when TV came about, then it was on film, and then internet was there, then it was available instantly on your phones. And then now you can have basically a personal prostitute on your phone in something called, what is this? OnlyFans. I didn't know that was like a thing much later than, I never knew about that. So that's become a big thing. Was it 2 million, how many people? 4 million creators on that, creators. And people who basically expose themselves, and most of them are women, which is pretty much, probably 90% of them are women. And so people want to try to satisfy their sex desire. And you can see to the extent that they will go to. It's quite crazy, actually. It's quite insane how far people will go, because of the level that it is advertised at. It's so you see that that sex desire drives people to do so many insane things. I mean, you see the psychologists have done a lot of studies and examinations of how the promiscuity of society, the sexualization of society, direct correlation with the level of depression, anxiety, divorces, all of these different things we consider in the society to be problems in our society, have a direct relationship with the propagation of porn or sex. How much they impact the human body, the human mind, how much it has caused so much problems. But because we take it to be amazing, like generally sex is looked at as something like, oh, the pleasure of life, that's the topmost thing. If you can have sex, a lot of sex, then you're the big, we're in Georgia, UGA, so I call it, you're the big dog. You're the big dog. You're the big dog in society. So the team for the University of Georgia is called the Dogs. So you say you want to be a big dog in this material. And so it's seen as something amazing. It's seen as something great pleasure. Yes, that's like the height of material life, sex pleasure. Yes, if you can have lots and lots of sex, then you've made it in the world. It's true. That's what it is. That's why do you earn so much money? In order to have beautiful girls to have sex with. You invite a lot of beautiful girls. That's how rich people are saying. It's not that you want to have just a bunch of money just for the sake of a bunch of money. There's a reason. Srila Prabhupada said this whole material society is built on sex desire. All this big building, they've simply built it for sex. So you can see that how sex, the desire, the pleasure of sex, the desire to have sex, how it rules our lives, that people go to a crazy extent. Earn so much money, do so many different things. So although it's seemingly satisfying that it is being propagated at that, there's this most amazing thing in life that when you get it, it's going to satisfy your whole life. But actually, we see the complete opposite. The more you try for this, the worse your life becomes, actually. The more you try to satisfy the sex desire in many different ways, the more degraded we become. Although it's propagated as something very wonderful, because it's not that. We see the lives of people who are doing it constantly, you could say, who are advertising it, who are living that lifestyle of a prostitute, a porn star, or even people on this OnlyFans or whatever it is. It's not that they live very good lives. You see, actually, if you examine their lives, their mental health is completely messed up. They're addicted to drugs. They're addicted to alcohol. They need a lot of psychological help. And, if you see some of these documentaries of the impact of the porn industry on women and men, those who are you can say, actors of that, they're terrible. You see those documentaries, and their lives are terrible, horrible, and they'll tell you it sucks. But our idea of it is that it should be enjoyable. It should be great. Some people say, oh, sex is spiritual. Say, oh yeah, you can have a lot of sex, have some spiritual happiness. Absolutely not. Because you can see how actually sex, specifically talking about illicit sex here, that's generally the overall understanding, that people don't really consider illicit sex anymore so much. it, although seems to be such great happiness or great feeling in this world, it actually, or it seems to create lively atmosphere, like I'm saying, these industries that propagate it, they then themselves are such low, low energy. Or you can go to the red light district. I don't know where that's in Atlanta, but if you go, if you go around there, you can see, or you can go around neighborhoods where there's a lot of illicit activity going on, whether it's in terms of sex, intoxication, or all of that. Generally, we call that the hood. But you can see that generally that the level of consciousness is very low. You go to a red light district, it's not particularly nice to be around that place, although it's a lot of sex. You should be happy. Everybody should be dancing in rainbows, and there should be like, it should feel like you walked into like a very, very nice, bright place. But you go there, it's very dark, and the type of people that hang around there is like, you probably don't want to be around those type of people. Is really low class. So all the sex is hyped in this world, and it's given as the topmost happiness in this world. Actually, the Shastra or Srimad Bhagavatam says that is actually yan maitinadi sukham hi tucham. It's tucham is actually very insignificant. It's actually very small. And the endeavor to get that small satisfaction and the desire to fulfill that lust, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it burns like fire the heart. We want it, we get it, but it's actually tucham. It's so small, tiny. So it doesn't satisfy the heart at all. But we live in a fairy world, you could say, a fairy tale. That, I'll get this beautiful girl, and then I'll have, live happily ever after. That I'll have so much sex after my marriage, and we'll have sex so many ways, and do this and do that and all of that. And then you get married on the basis of this sex, and then because the nature of sex, nature of material pleasure is like that, it's it disappears, even if it is the most beautiful girl in this world. Then they look for sex in different places. Then people want to go to different countries for sex. Oh, it's not satisfying me. This was my wife. She's not satisfying. Then I should go somewhere. I should go to maybe Thailand or something, in which I can get so many different prostitutes with so many different, I can experience so many different types of STDs and all of that sort of stuff. Because you get bored with your wife, so then you go find many different other beautiful girls. But even that idea, okay, this girl will make me happy, that girl, some people may have the idea, and there's a famous story that my spiritual master relates, is that there was a very beautiful girl in the Bollywood scene in India, and then pretty much the half of India wanted this girl, which means most all the men wanted this girl. But she was in the film industry, and she was the movie industry, and obviously those generally that's like big deal. And everybody wanted to marry this film star. And then when she became a little older, she decided to get married and all of that. And the guy who married her, all the men of India became envious of him. But he himself killed himself in 2 weeks, because he realized this woman was actually like, although everybody was after her, the most beautiful girl, any man could want, but she was she was so insane that this man killed himself. But initially, sex desire was like, wow, so much, I should just get it. But it doesn't satisfy. It doesn't satisfy the living entity. Why? Well, Tucham, we were saying, it's like the scratch on the hand. It's like a scratch. If you, Srila Prabhupada say, well, you have a little scratch, and when you scratch it, it's satisfying. And then you scratch it more, it's a little more satisfying. And then you scratch, and blood comes out. But if you simply just tolerate that little bit of itch that's there, then that itching tendency over time will go away, and you won't have blood in your hands. So it's very insignificant, actually. This sex desire, desire for sex is very significant. That's why the living entity continues to rotate in this samsara. He continues to rotate in birth, death, old age, disease. But the pleasure of sex itself is tucham, is very insignificant. Actually, it won't give you any the satisfaction that you're hoping for, as I often say, that the ocean of happiness that we're looking for, but we're hanking for the one drop in the desert. That is what sex desire is, or sex life is. Because that's not what the human form of life is meant for. Even though we're saying that, okay, if you analyze it actually, okay, generally, if the idea is that if you have sex, you should have it with someone very beautiful. But there's a story that relates of how this poor Brahmana, he wanted to have sex with some very famous prostitute. She cost him 100,000 gold coins in order to have sex with her, and she's backed up for a whole year. But he somehow or other, his wife, seeing that her husband wanted that, she tried to arrange for that. And so she couldn't afford it obviously, but she started serving this prostitute very nicely by cleaning after her, cooking for her, doing all of these things. And after some time, the prostitute asked, well, why are you doing all of this? What do you want? He said, well, actually, I have a husband who wants to enjoy with you. So if you can do that, that would be very satisfying for me to see my husband happy. So anyways, she goes and tells her husband that I've arranged made such arrangements for you, and that in a month, there she has one space left, that you be ready. So he's crossing off her day to day. Oh, I can't wait. And he goes. The day comes. He goes her free day, and she cooks for him. She says, "I'll cook for you. I'll cook very nicely for you. I'm a good cook also." She says, "Okay, I'm a poor Brahmana. I don't get to eat generally." And then she eats. She cooks for him, and then she serves him in these golden pots. Nice feast. And then he's full, and then she goes back. And then she puts all the same stuff in the silver pot, and then she brings it out. And then she says, hey, take more. I said, no, I already ate. What's the problem? I already ate. I'm full. I can't. It's the same. You're just bringing the same stuff. And it's a silver pots. And she tells him, frankly, you're such a fool. The sex is exactly the same. It's exactly the same where one is beautiful, one is this, one is that. Actually, the sex is the same, but look how much you're endeavoring for this. You're willing to ruin your whole life over it. It's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. That same meals with different pots, the same sex with different types of bodies. And he says, it's like, and you can see that permeated throughout the whole material world. Even the cockroaches are thinking like that. That that there's the female cockroach and there's the male cockroach. You'll see that if you see that sometimes when you live in places. Sometimes we see it. We don't see particularly this, but that sometimes the male cockroach is chasing after the female cockroach, and the male cockroach is thinking, oh, she has such nice legs. She has a very nice back, like it's very, very big, brown back she has. What a nice, she must be like, my spiritual master says, she's Miss Kitchen. She's one Miss Kitchen. And the cockroach is thinking, I would like to be with her. So nice. So it's the same thing with us also. We're thinking like this, oh, how beautiful this is, how beautiful that is. But it's actually ultimately the same thing. We see even now spring is coming, you'll see all of these squirrels running after each other. Or even an elephant, even the male elephant runs after the female elephant. Actually, you can trap a male elephant like that just by sex desire. You can't catch the male elephant. But if you trap the female elephant first and then you attract him with sex, you trap the male elephant. So we're thinking like that, oh, if I get someone very, very, very beautiful, then I'll be able to enjoy nicely. But actually, it's not even that. It's the same enjoyment. It's the same disappointment. Sex desire, sex life is actually disappointing. It does not please anyone, neither the man, neither the woman. It actually destroys one's life, this illicit sex desire, or this illicit sex. You see even the greatest of people in society completely dragged down by it. Even in America we have Bill Clinton, who is, is like, completely dragged down by lust. So people want to run after this sex as the center of the world. That's center of this material world, is everybody's running after it. So therefore when we have renunciates, or do those who are practicing Krishna consciousness often gets asked, so y'all don't have sex? Like, no. Well, at least those, especially in the orange robes, but those who are householders, they do it only for the purpose of making Krishna conscious children, and no other purpose. And people are pretty shocked by it. People are pretty shocked by that. How can you do that? How can you avoid this pleasure of life that everybody is after? Everybody's running after this sex. Oh my God, it's the center of our lives. I can't avoid it. But why is it that we're avoiding it? Well, we'll see, it's tucham. Actually causes so much entanglement and pain in this world. You have to go through so much. You have to get it. For example, for a man, he can live very simply, but he goes through so much strain just to have that sex. He goes, gets a big job, gets a big car, gets his big home, just to have a little bit of sex. Why such endeavor? This is actually a waste of human form of life. And then the women are exploited like anything as a result, as Srila Prabhupada says. Women are completely exploited in this society. You see that. They've become convinced that this is the, so many women, this is exposing themselves freely, allowing themselves for exploitation. And it brings the whole society down, as Bhagavad Gita says. When the women become polluted, then all of the children in society become completely degraded. They don't know where to learn from. The mothers are not proper. So it's a degrading principle, this lust, this sex, which is the center of lust. This is a degrading principle. It's just the animal state of consciousness, actually. That's just how animals live. But the human form of life is meant for much, much higher. It's meant for something much, much greater. The pleasure that we derive is meant to be on a much greater platform. The pleasure we want to experience is ideally on a much greater platform. That's that imagination of sex pleasure that will be completely fulfilling to our life. But it's a disappointment. So therefore, the Vedas and the Shastra says those who try to enjoy on such a level are just kripanas. They're just misers. Actually, we're lost. We don't have any idea. Our intelligence is completely bewildered. Because actually that real pleasure is found not in sex, but in one sense, abstaining from the illicit sex. And then endeavoring for Krishna consciousness. Endeavoring for the platform of spiritual life. So this sex causes so much pain in this world. So much pain is there because of sex. You see that people they may have so much sex and then as a result get so many diseases, or sometimes they get unwanted children, which now they consider, that in one sense is causing there's so much pain in this because they didn't want to have the children, and they have to keep those children, and then the children are not loved properly, and everybody's not happy, the man is not happy, the woman's not happy. People are killed over sex. A man has sex with another man's wife. Well, it's just sex, it's free sex. What's the problem? The wife and the other man can have free sex, but then her husband is not very happy, destroys that whole marriage, if they have children, destroys the children's lives. So that sex is a very degrading thing in this world. This illicit sex is a very degrading thing. This is because it induces, it's the center of lust, you could say. So, in Krishna consciousness, Krishna's speaking about that, or the Vedas in general tell one to avoid such a situation, actually. Avoid this sex life. Give up this sex life. What is the use of it? It only gives one pain in this world. Give it up. Srikadeva Goswami encourages like that in the Bhagavad Gita. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto. then one should endeavor to become free from sex life in this world. When one can do that, then one can, and is able to focus on the real goal of life, which is manmana bhava mad bhakti, to constantly remember Krishna and never forget him, then he can become free. He can actually start to experience that ananda. That, what is that verse? Brahma bhuta prasanatmana sochiti nakankshati samasarvechi bhuteshi mad bhaktim lavate param. That when one becomes devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes fixed in his consciousness, in his service. He no longer experiences that hankering and lamenting of this world. He experiences constant level of bliss, happiness. So, but it is a very difficult thing to conquer. Actually, it's the most difficult because it's the binding force of this material existence, this sex desire, or this illicit sex life, is very difficult to conquer. How can you conquer it? It's impossible to fathom. You can see that it's actually even within Krishna consciousness, those are very easy things. Not eating meat, very easy. It's like not hard at all. So you don't even think about it. Intoxication is, the level of, you could say in one sense, spiritual intoxication you get by just chanting and serving Krishna in a proper mood and attitude. The happiness you derive, or that as you derive as a result of that service, attitude, is so much greater than this intoxication. It's greater than anything in this world, actually. And gambling, nobody really even thinks about that, you could say in one sense. But this sex life, even when you take up spiritual life, it's constantly there. Why? Because it's like the root thing that is holding us in this material world. It's so difficult to overcome. But Krishna promises that if you simply just remember me in the Bhagavad Gita, you shall be able to overcome the most difficult things in this material world. Okay, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, if one simply remembers Lord Chaitanya, simply remembers Krishna, all difficult things become easy. So this sex desire is very difficult to overcome. This lust is very difficult to overcome. The mind is very difficult to overcome. But one can do it by the regulative practices of devotional service, by chanting Hare Krishna. That pleasure that we experience, by which we are able to let go of so many unwanted things in our life, intoxicate, meat eating, all of these things. Similarly, if we make it a proper endeavor in our minds, as this recent lecture, my spiritual master put out called Shraddha Prema, if one takes a vow that I just won't do it, and he becomes determined in that vow, then he makes spiritual advancement very fast. Specifically speaking about Mangalarti, coming to the morning program and chanting one's rounds and all of these things. But I was taking that and going, well, that's the same with sex desire. If one makes it a determination in his mind not to do it in his life, specifically for this in the renounced order of life, or to do it only for the purpose of procreation, he makes that his determination. It's a much greater determination, is because you're dealing with a whole different level of attachment in this world. Then he can overcome it. It's very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult. But if one just becomes determined in doing it, I had a thought, a very important point, but I just lost it in my mind. Because we're able to already do it in so many different aspects. It just has to be transferred to it's a little more difficult, like I'm saying, it's a little bit higher. But so that means one has to give a little more to Krishna consciousness. His state of mind, his being, his body, his mind, words, all have to be fully engaged. Otherwise, the sex desire takes over. But sex desire can also be, in our sex, which is done properly, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that is me. Sex that which is done in accordance with Dharma, I am that. So sex can also be a great source of pleasure. How? Well, we're talking about where it causes so much pain. It's the binding knot of material existence. You should overcome it. Well, one specifically only uses sex for the purpose of creating children that are high, that inviting certain souls within the womb that are actually highly conscious. And there's a whole process for that. There's a regulated process of that within Krishna consciousness. And he only engages for that purpose, to satisfy Krishna, not to just satisfy his sex desire. And that children that is produced as a result of that are meant to be able to give great knowledge to society, or become great help to society in fulfilling their spiritual aspirants. So they become great teachers or great examples in society of how to live a successful life. So that sex is a great source of pleasure. Our own spiritual master, great spiritual master, grand spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was a renunciate his whole life, didn't lose a drop of semen his whole life, he was a celibate his whole life, Naishtika Brahmachari, said, I'm ready to have sex hundreds of times if it meant that I could produce Krishna conscious children. So the Krishna consciousness movement is certainly not against the principle of sex, because it can give birth to so many wonderful, and that's the purpose of it. And you see, it's not that, you'll see that a very small portion of the society is actually in the renounced order of life. It's a very difficult thing to do. But those who are not, they can utilize sex life in order to produce those children, which will be a great source of pleasure. Generally, the result of, people say, anyways, that's the controversy in this world. Sex is natural, but nobody wants the natural result. So sex is only natural as long as it gives you pleasure. But then, if you have to take care of all of these things that come as a result of it, then that's not natural. So if generally the result of sex is that one produces children. And generally for those who are parents, their happiness lies in raising those children and giving those children proper knowledge and proper life. So if one can give those children, as the Bhagavatam says, one is a real guru. A real guru is one who can teach Krishna consciousness. A real mother, a real father, a real teacher is one who can give spiritual life to them, liberate them from this material world. So this sex can also become a way of liberation also, if one knows how to utilize it. One knows how to actually channel it properly in Krishna consciousness. Because that child may go on to help so many people. And you're also, just by producing that child, you're liberating that one soul from this material world. So if one becomes Krishna conscious, then he can, although one is having sex within marriage and all of this, that is also considered conquering of sex desire, because one doesn't just do it for pleasure, he's doing it for the purpose of only to serve Krishna. That is actually the root cause of our problems, our averseness to serve Krishna. So it is related to Krishna, even this sex. So this sex desire and sex, this illicit sex of this world is a great pain and causes so much disturbance in this whole atmosphere. This is the cause of so many problems, psychological, physical, wars, all of these things actually. Just this principle of illicit sex, you could say in one sense, lust. But when one can take up Krishna consciousness, when one can come to the platform as Krishna says, how does that verse start? Raso varsam raso pasya, how does that verse start? Param dishtra nivartati. Anyways, that's a... Vishaya vinivartanti nirahara siddhina. Raso varsam raso pasya, param dishtra nivartati. No. Deina. Rasa pasya. Yeah, so that when one gets a higher taste, then he automatically lets go of the lower thing. So when one gets the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, when one is able to develop that intense love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, actually there's no more room in his mind for sex desire. And even when it comes, as one of our great acharyas say, that he immediately spits at the thought of so-called, pleasure of sex, because he sees that this is the binding thing of this world. So one can overcome this binding knot of material existence in which everybody Every single person in this world, they're completely bound by it, simply by taking up the process of Krishna consciousness very seriously, by chanting their rounds very seriously. It's practically impossible, and we have that experience also. Ali Krishna Prabhu was talking about that. Young men of this society, we're specifically talking to young men in the UGA. We have a little preaching center, and we're monks, so we generally don't interact with women too much. And so we have a little place where mostly men come, only men come. And you see how much the sex desire in the society completely ruins young men's lives, but also they find it impossible to overcome it, although they know that it's bad for them. They're performing so many different degrading activities, but they know I've been trying to overcome this for so many years. But they come and simply, when they start chanting the holy name and they start partaking in the process of Krishna consciousness, no more, finished, done, that's it. Done. And you see all of the guys, we have the same experience. How is it that we're able to, in our youth, able to renounce the idea of going and trying to enjoy sex life in this world? Well, there's a much higher pleasure. Human form of life is meant for much more than just running after sex, or advertising for sex, or doing this or doing that. So one has to get a higher taste. Otherwise, it's impossible for young men in this society to think about not watching porn and not masturbating and not doing all of these things. Impossible. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. But when they take up Krishna consciousness, we see immediately, finished, done, that, no more. All right, don't want to engage in that degrading, low consciousness activity. What to speak of maintaining that practice for over one's whole life. But one has to develop deep level of dedication to that practice. One has to be absorbed in that practice. And if one can simply do that in Krishna consciousness, then he avoids so much trouble in his life, especially those in the renounced order of life. You can avoid so much trouble by just remaining Krishna consciousness, following the morning program, chanting one's rounds properly, reading these books. One can overcome this binding force of material existence by the mercy of Krishna. So we've done it already. We've already renounced so many things, but we can also renounce that. It just takes determination and being conscious, okay, I have to renounce this. So this platform of Krishna consciousness, it brings us way above, and the whole society in general will benefit from this. It's not just yourself. It's a degrading principle. So if we can bring the society to the level of Krishna consciousness, you'll see all of these mental problems, all of these wars and all of these things just naturally fall away. People will not have this dissatisfaction in their hearts. I should end. So Krishna consciousness is the solution to these problems of society. It's the solution to all problems. So simply by taking this process up, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Not can we only tolerate that itch, but we can just completely forget that and take a higher platform of pleasure, of service to Krishna, than just trying to satisfy this tucham, insignificant thing in this world. So if one takes this process of it almost seems inconceivable how that's possible. But to the level of intensity and level of dedication we have to the practice, to that level you see how much you can overcome these certain bindings of this material world. So if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Anything at all? Yes.
I just want to make a comment that, I totally agree. When you consider children, it helps you not have sex, because last year I accidentally became celibate. And then as I thought more on why I wasn't having sex, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it unless it's with someone I don't mind having kids with. And then as I made that decision, I've been celibate for a year and a couple of months now. But yeah, it really helps. Kids are a great deterrent. So yeah.
Yeah, we lose our sense of discrimination, right, when it's sex, and then people don't even figure, okay, what comes along with that. But yeah, I guess you can sometimes think about the how much trouble you might go through as a result of that.
Yeah.
But higher than that is to focus on the positive of Krishna consciousness, to overcome it by that. Because eventually it brings us back to that level, because it's not a higher taste, it's a negation.
Gotcha.
So it will, people can do it for some time. We see actually sometimes in the material world, that's a big thing for men also of the age, that becoming celibate for some time, what they call it, what is that, monk mode, semen retention, whatever, that's like a big movement. But that's only done for the purpose of doing it later in a better way. So it's not, it's funny, you become detached just to become more attached later, in order to increase your attachment later or increase your pleasure later. So it's a negating principle, but we want to focus on the positive principles of overcoming that by Krishna consciousness, which it won't bring us back to that level of going back to that.
I get that.
So yeah, but it's an important principle. Celibacy is actually in spiritual life, that's like, if one is not celibate, then there's no spiritual life.
I get that.
That's one way you can examine sometimes. So many people, I'm spiritual within Atlanta, I see that so much. But they think that sex is also spiritual, the sex that they're having. But it's just bogus, actually. That if one can't be celibate in spiritual life, then there's no question of spiritual life. It's completely material. Is there anything else? Anything at all? No? Okay. Oh, you have something? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, just say, for instance, just thinking about it, would that keep you bound in the material world? I mean, in the material world, just thinking about it, not actually just having it, but just the thought of it.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely, because that desire to enjoy is still there in the mind. It's binding, but because the activity hasn't taken place, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? So the point is that in one place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's related that when a devotee takes up Krishna consciousness, the super soul actually helps the devotee overcome these problems in the mind so that they don't come out. Because actually it becomes sinful when you act it out in Kali Yuga. In your mind, it may go on sometimes, as pretty much all of us, none of us are free from that, apart from those who are on the platform of pure devotion. But we don't allow it to act out because we're conscious of what's going on. We understand, we're not, you understand it's there, and you could say in one sense you're struggling to start to take it out of your mind. So that's a good thing, that if you're trying to take it out, because most people will just enjoy it more and then act it out. So it's a good indication if we're seeing that in our mind and it's coming and we're going, okay, no, all right, and it's like you're trying to focus on your rounds more, and oh man, this is how the mind is. It just presents all of the most nonsense things you've ever done in your life in the past, and the mind's power is so, significant. It has the ability to take you back to that time and place and circumstance and in which you are engaged in that activity, and brings all of that up. It's so powerful. Bhagavatam says that the godlike power of the mind. But we have a superior process in which we survive, Mana Krishna Padaravinda, we focus it on the lotus feet of Krishna. Immediately when that comes, I got to get more focused here on my rounds. And then you can see the mind, slowly, it goes away. Sometimes it keeps coming back up and going. So one has to be tolerant of that, just like the itch. Yeah. So you tolerate that. But if one tries to enjoy that in his mind, then that's binding. If one tries to refute that, then it's good, because one is trying to become Krishna conscious, one is endeavoring for Krishna consciousness, and Krishna appreciates that, that we're fighting against it, we're not surrendering to it. So we should, fighting against that, because in the beginning we may not have such high taste in Krishna consciousness, but that taste will come as we perform devotion activity. And you see over time it will become less and less and less and less and less. Our Krishna conscious advancement can be judged by the level of sex desire we have in our life, actually. How much material enjoyment we want. Yeah.
Excellent. Hare Krishna.
All right. Palini Mataji, I think Mataji is going to say a few words. Palini Mataji is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. She's serving her whole life. She's a very pure devotee of Krishna. Every time that I meet her or see her, I feel purified in my life and feel more Krishna conscious. And she's brighter. Every time I see Mata, she's brighter and brighter and brighter. She's the emblem of how to live a Krishna conscious life. So I think she will say a few words.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. So, where should I sit?
Everybody can see you.
Come in the front here.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangung Langai Girim Yat Kripatamahang Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. So, Hare Krishna. My name is Palini Devi Dasi. I was born in 1950 in Denver, Colorado. And I was brought up in a Catholic family. My mother was very strict, and my father was more relaxed. So I feel like I've had a good balance in my upbringing. And one time, when I was at a what's it called, the Department of Motor Vehicles in California, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. You all know who Srila Prabhupada is? Who does not know who Srila Prabhupada is? Okay, so after I got married in 1981 to Haripad Das, and we used to go out to public places and distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. So one lady walked up to me one day, and I approached her. I showed her the books and I invited her to take a book and give a donation if she would like. And for some reason, she mentioned to me that she was a palmist. She was a person who could read palms. So I said, oh, that's interesting. And I don't want to lose my train of thought, but I've been noticing over the last several years on YouTube, there are many, many people who post videos about subtle sciences like palmistry, numerology, astrology. These sciences all come from God, and they are all designed to help human beings come to a higher level of consciousness so that eventually we can return to where we came from. We're not meant to be here. This is not our natural home. Here there's old age, which maybe a couple of you have experienced in this life. Very, very painful, very, very debilitating. And death is, that's really foreign to us because we're eternal. We're spiritual beings. inside these bodies, we are a spirit soul. And we're eternal. We're not used to this concept of dying. So anyway, so this woman, she said to me, "May I see your palm?" And she said, "No, not this side. I want to see this side." Now, this I did not know about. But in palmistry, apparently there's a technique or a maneuver to understand what happened in your previous life. So she looked at the back of my hand and she said, "In a previous life, you were a cloistered nun. But you did not like that life because your parents forced you into it. But in this life, your involvement in Krishna consciousness is a good balance for you because it allows you to be a nun and at the same time, you're married. You have children." So I really appreciated that point that she made, and it made me feel like, okay, I get to be a nun like I always wanted to be when I was young, but I also get to be married and have children, which I always wanted to do. So it's a really, really nice balance between total spiritual dedication, like these men in the orange color. Their lives are totally spiritual. They have no room in their mind for mundane thoughts. If something creeps into their mind, they immediately say, no. And they go back to Krishna consciousness. So that is one side of the spectrum or the pendulum, and the other side is sense gratification. Getting married, having kids, learning how to make it in this world, how to make money, how to survive. That's called the struggle for existence. It's actually a struggle. And in Sanskrit, it's called apavarga. Apavarga is 4 syllables, and they all mean different things. And they symbolize, those 4 syllables in Sanskrit symbolize the hard struggle for material existence in this world. This is not our home. What we're really hankering for is happiness, right? Anybody here want to be happy? Yeah, me too. Anybody here want to feel loved? Yeah. Okay, so Krishna consciousness is the solution to these 2 needs, these 2 requirements of the soul. So we all want to be loved, we all want to love, and we all want to be happy. So what Krishna consciousness does is it reconnects us. There are 2, I guess you could say there's a syllable, and then there's also a word in Latin. The syllable re, pronounced re in Latin, means again. And ligio or ligio means to connect. Just like in our body we have ligaments, that word ligament comes from the Latin, meaning to connect. So there's ligaments in the knee that connect the bones of the thigh and the calf, or the shin. So ligio means to connect. So religio or religio is the meaning of religion, to again connect with God. So whatever path you decide to take in your life, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Buddhism, any path that leads you to God in one way or another is positive. But in Krishna consciousness, we see the whole elephant. Does anybody know what I'm referring to? We see the whole elephant. So there's an ancient comparison that is given that if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 or 6 blind people try to describe an elephant, if the elephant is cool to allow them to touch it. So one blind man will feel the tail, and he will say, oh, an elephant is like a rope. And then another blind man will feel the leg, and he will say, oh, an elephant is like a tree trunk. And another person who's blind may feel the trunk of the elephant, and he'll say, oh, it's like, I can't remember what it's compared to. It's like the branch of a tree, but it's flexible, like a hose or something, very thick hose, like a fire hose. And then another blind man will feel the body of the elephant and say, oh, an elephant is like a big drum or a big barrel. So they're all correct, but they're only giving partial understandings of what the elephant is. So if you step back and you can see the whole elephant, if you're not blind, you can see the whole elephant, then you understand the elephant, what it actually is, what it actually looks like. So Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian religion. It's a way of life that teaches us how to reconnect with God. And it's the whole elephant. So before I came over here this afternoon, I saw a little robin land outside my window on the ground. And I grew up in Denver, where robins are the most common bird. And I was watching the little robin. He was pecking the ground. He was looking for food. And actually in the Bhagavad Gita, we read that Krishna feeds all living entities. Everyone, even the elephants who eat tons of food every day, they are provided enough food by God. So we shouldn't worry. This is the point that's made in the Bhagavad Gita, that human beings shouldn't be so stressed out over how they're going to eat, because whatever is destined to come to us will come. Our wealth, our poverty, our happiness, our distress, it's all destined at the time of birth. Even our lifespan. It's told in the Vedas. The Vedas are books of knowledge. Veda means knowledge. Books of knowledge from the ancient Sanskrit language. The Vedas tell us that our span of life is decided at the time of birth. And you know how it's decided? Who knows? Who's familiar with this? Okay. At the time of birth, we are given a certain number of breaths. Yes, and even if we're in perfect health, if we come to our last breath, then we have to leave the body. The soul has to exit. That's why this great, huge festival called Kumbh Mela, which just took place in India, it's like the biggest festival in the world for humans. So there are yogis who come to this festival Yogis who have been meditating high up in the Himalayan mountains in the freezing cold, they are able, by practicing what is given in the Bhagavad Gita, to control their breathing. Krishna describes to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that if a yogi he controls his outgoing breath and he controls his incoming breath, and he keeps controlling those and merging them until it becomes a constant flow of air throughout the body. And when you come to that point, you don't have to breathe anymore. You don't have to breathe in and breathe out. That's how those yogis who come to the Kumbh Mela, some of them are 500 years old. Some of them are 1,000 years old, because they have learned how to control their breathing. So, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose in Krishna consciousness is to control our breath by chanting the names of God. And when we chant the names of God, then we learn to control everything else that has to do with the body. The body is made up of senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. And so we learn how to use all those senses in the service of God. Those senses, they came from God. God created this body. It has senses. So we use those senses in his service. We give them back to him. That's called sacrifice. There's one type of sacrifice that's very popular here in this country, and that is Dravya Yajna. I thank my dear friend, Ali Krishna Prabhu, for helping me remember that term. Dravya Yajna. Dravya means material possessions, like money, food, clothing. So people who can afford to like to give money to others. They like to give clothing to others. They like to give food. But if you give food that has been offered to God, then it becomes a spiritual effort. If you give clothing to devotees of God who are spreading God's glories, then that becomes a spiritual endeavor. If you give money to those whose lives are dedicated to understanding and practicing Krishna consciousness, then you get great, great blessings, incomparable, immeasurable blessings from God. So it takes a little discrimination to understand, okay, if I just give material things away, then that's good, but it's not the highest. It's not the highest level of sacrifice. But when I give of myself and my possessions to the devotees of God, those who are dedicated to loving God and serving God with every drop of their energy at every moment of their lives, then I get great benefit. So we have to be intelligent in this human form of life. We have to understand that the human form of life is meant for remembering God and reawakening our love for him. So there's so much more, but I would like to conclude here. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak with you for a few minutes. I'd love to get to know all of you personally, and I wish you all the best of success in your life, especially in your spiritual life. One last thought is that, who's heard the word dharma? Dharma. It's a very popular word nowadays, right? So dharma means that which cannot be separated from the self. So the dharma of sugar is sweetness. The dharma of fire is heat and light. So the dharma of the soul is service. So if you think about it, and if you watch people, you'll see not only people, but animals too, and trees, plants. Okay? So in human life, humans like to serve others. That's just a natural quality of life. So if we serve God and we serve the devotees of God, then we reconnect with God. You see a dog, if he doesn't have a master, he's very lonely. He feels like he has no purpose. But if he has a master, he's like, you know, don't you dare come here. This is my master's house. And trees and plants, they give off oxygen so that we can breathe oxygen. They take in carbon dioxide so that we don't have to breathe that. So every soul, every living being has a dharma of service. So, but in the human form of life, we use our intelligence to engage in the type of service that helps us to escape from the cycle of repeated birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. We've been going through this cycle since time immemorial. So it's time to put a stop to it. What's that? Atato Brahma Jignasa. Atato Brahma Jignasa means now is the time. Now is the time. Okay? So now that you're in the human form of life, it's time to get out of the cycle of repeated birth and death. So these devotees here, they can help you understand. And those books that are on the table back there, beyond this door, those books will help you understand how to live your life in such a way that you can get free from the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. Okay? Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Now, I think everybody's got beads with them. Yes? So we'll chant a little bit, just about 8 beads. I think everybody's been here before. I think everybody's chanted on the beads before. You've been here before, right? Okay. So we'll do a little bit of chanting on our beads. We'll do about 8 beads, and then I have a few announcements, and then a little bit of kirtan. So we'll do it in unison together again, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So all together, 3, 2, 1. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Last one. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. So please chant more if you can. Try to, if those who haven't started yet, you can start with 1 round a day and then work your way up to 16. It's not that hard. So please try your best. You can come here in the morning. So I have a few announcements to make. Obviously, every Sunday there is a Sunday program happening at the same time. If you're not in the groups, Bhakta Mason over here, I want to stand up. You can give him your contact information, and he will give you updates on these special festivals and programs and lectures, like special guest lectures and things that will be happening here. There's a lot of festivals that are going on now that it's spring season. There's a lot of festivals that come consistent, pretty much every other week or every 2 weeks. And then we have really amazing spiritual masters and teachers that are going to be coming through this spring and summer. So there's a lot going on. So please make sure that you can give your contact to Mason. What's up?
Hare Krishna. We had gone around with the group me last time, and we were realizing that a lot of people don't generally tend to use group me, so we have a WhatsApp for you guys to join. This will be the last group that you have to join, and I'm sorry about that.
Who uses WhatsApp? Okay, you all do. Okay, some people. Okay, so yeah, and then there's a special Tuesday. On Tuesday mornings there's a special little class. Pretty much there's class every morning on Tuesday and every day. But on Tuesdays there'll be something a little more special, and there'll be a special breakfast served out. So please, if you can make an endeavor to maybe make that one of your mornings, which you can come and engage in a little bit of chanting in the morning, hear the class, and then go down and take a little nice. It's basically a small feast in the morning. So please come to those. Those are very, very nice. You'll have what time? People would 7:30. 7:30 is when the class begins. If people want to get here a little earlier to chant and things like that, it's nice. But 7:30, if you can make it by 7:30, that's generally practical for people. You can RSVP. You can send it on this group chat. Yeah, on this chat that you'll be in. So we can cook enough for you and your friends that you may bring. You bring your friends, family, or enemies also. That's good for them. Books. We have, of all the books you can get, if you get this book right here, you can really, spend the rest of your life studying this. This will make the greatest change. I read this through my university time, and it completely changed my life, as you can see. And pretty much every other devotee that reads the book can attest to that. So please, you take these 18 volumes. It's only 18 volumes, it's not much. And so if you can talk to some of the women or some of the men that will be at the table, there's many other books. Who doesn't have the books yet? Which ones? The big ones. You guys got to get a set. You can talk to Lekha Shravanti Mataji or some of the devotees that are here. So please if you don't have a set, please get a set. There's also more books out there that you can get, that you can study and start to elevate your spiritual life. There's also different, on Fridays you have these programs. On Fridays for the women there's cooking classes going on that is run by Shubhada Mataji, I believe. So please, stay in contact with her, come and learn how to cook and offer food to Krishna. And so now that the garden is also going, there's a lot of services available to come and engage in gardening and things like that. So now that spring is kicking in and the weather's back, there's a lot of opportunities. The women sometimes do little hikes and things like that on the weekends. So please stay in touch. It's very nice, very nice community that in the spring and summer, it's a little easier to do things. So thank you very much for coming. Oh, thank you. I have it in my list and I almost forgot. So now on this Thursday, we'll have our New Year. This is our New Year. It's one of our biggest festivals of the year. It's the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. It's the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have a nice big festival. What time is that? 5 o'clock. So that will begin at 5 p.m. on a Thursday this week. So please, you can also RSVP to that, or what's the deal with that? Yeah, please RSVP and invite your friends also. Okay, I don't think there's anything else. Now there will be a...
Don't you close the temple when the eclipse? I thought
I don't know when...
temples are closing after 4:30.
On Thursday? We're open. On Thursday, we're going to have a party. We're going to have a festival. We're going to have a big party. 13th, yeah, there's an eclipse, huh? We'll be doing a lot of kirtan. Generally, during the eclipse, you're meant to do a lot of kirtan. Or any sort of eclipse. Okay, so now there'll be a little kirtan, and then everyone can buy some books and head down for some prasadam. Enjoy. Thank you very much for coming.
Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.